Welcome back, folks. I am John Najarian, and this is 3 at 3. Every business day, we bring you unusual activity, which I will define right now. Unusual activity is a call, which was purchased in large numbers, or a put, which also was purchased in large numbers. If it is a call, we are saying that somebody is placing a leveraged bet that the market is going higher. And if somebody buys a put, they're either protecting the downside and they wanted protection like that quickly, or they are betting that the particular asset is going lower in price. So in either case, we like following those big players in the market because we find they are more often than not correct in their assumptions. In many cases, they have better intel than we have. That's why we follow them. They have people at all of the investment conferences. They have been tipped off not to insider information. Occasionally that might happen, but that's not the bulk of what we see. They may be tipped off to a brokerage upgrade or downgrade. If you knew a stock was about to be downgraded and it's not coming from the company, it is not material non-public information from that company. It is indeed one of the reasons that people pay hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in commissions to their brokers because they want to get involved in IPOs. We haven't seen nearly as many of those this year, an initial public offering. Also, they do it because they want to know, they want to get the heads up when they're giving an upgrade. Now, many of us see that come across CNBC, Fox Business, Bloomberg, whatever. You see that a stock has been upgraded or downgraded or a new target or whatever. But that does not mean that that has just hit the biggest and best customers at that moment. Those biggest and best probably got a little heads up before that. And that's why they do all those transactions through that broker to get that intel. So with all that said as a backdrop, let's get started with today's 3 at 3. Giving you a little update here. As you saw just days ago, we had this unusual activity in the uranium stocks. CCJ, UUUU, UEC, all of them. Strong activity. And some of them huge activity because 16,000 of those Camco, which is CCJ, 16,000 of those calls changing hands is a big trade. 2,500 of these 8 calls, 5,200 of the regular September 4.5 calls. You get the idea. Just wanted to show you how that has played out so far. Now let's talk just for a second about the Rebel's Edge. I will be shooting the Rebel's Edge next week from the New York Stock Exchange on Monday and Tuesday. Encourage you to tune in. Pete will be there. We will both be on the Rebel's Edge, although Pete will be at, as usual, an undisclosed location. Meanwhile, I'll be on the New York Stock Exchange. I'll be out there for SALT, Battlefin, and JetNet IQ, which is private jet aviation. I'm involved in the space. I invest in the space. I will be speaking at that JetNet IQ and then, of course, grabbing some great content, we hope, at Battlefin and SALT events in New York. The Rebel's Edge goes Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Encourage you to check it out. We had a very active one today, talked about a lot of great sporting events that are going on, including, of course, Bama going to Texas, talked about unusual activity, talked about the stocks that are making big moves today, including Apple with that new A16 chip in the phone, as well as satellite connectivity, something they've talked about for a while. An emergency satellite connection means that wherever you are in the world, potentially, you should be able to get a signal out through the satellites, not just from a tower. So obviously, if you're somebody who travels remotely from time to time, somebody who goes sailing, for instance, where you might not have connectivity, all of a sudden you might have that emergency connectivity in the palm of your hand. Bang, right there. All right, let's get on to today's unusual option activity, starting with Antero Resources. As you see, pure play in Appalachia. So this is an energy, natural gas, and crude oil play. The stock is up today at 38.68. They started buying 8,100 of the October 45 calls. So these calls, of course, expire in October, the third Friday in October. These calls were purchased to the tune of about 800,000 share equivalent. If you're a stock trader instead of options, take a look at that 8,100, put 2 zeros behind it, because every option is for 100 shares of stock. So when you see 8,100, that's 810,000 shares of stock that this particular player controls. 800,000 shares of a $38 stock. Well, you guys can do the math. That is a big potential trade in terms of how much capital they are committing. And they are above the market by some $6 and let's call it 32 cents. So big upside between now and October expected for this one. I like the setup. I am in Antero, which is, of course, AR. Also tell you about Virtual RebelCon. This is RebelCon, our big event that goes on every year. This one will be in Dallas, Texas, middle of the country. If there are any seats available, you can check. You can go to marketrebellion.com/Dallas. Also, if you'd like to attend virtually and not spend the money on the hotel room or the flying to or from or taking a train or taking a car, whatever, you can instead just attend virtually. We've got Brian Sullivan, who's going to be there. I'll be there. Pete will be there. AJ Monty will be there. Ryan Mastro will be there. Bill Johnson will be there. Tom Lee will be there. Anthony Scaramucci just told us he may be there. So if you'd like to attend virtually instead of in person, by all means, Virtual RebelCon. It is nearly sold out on the regular side. Virtual, we can accommodate thousands of you. Hundreds of you have already signed up. Please check it out. Virtual RebelCon 2022, Dallas, Texas, September 21st through the 24th. You can go to marketrebellion.com/Dallas. All right. How about this one? XLU. This is, anytime it begins with an X, it's part of the S&P 500 as far as an ETF or a spider. They have subsectors of the S&P 500. This happens to be the one that tracks utilities, hence the U at the end there. So XLU is the utility ETF. Bearish put buying. Why would that be? Well, if interest rates are going higher, which they are, the potential that people will sell utilities goes up as well. And why would that be? Well, because right now the sector is yielding about 2.74%. That's, if you just go to the XLU, take a look at what the yield is. That's the combined yield of all the utilities that it represents. They pay that out to you and me, perfect strangers. 10,000 of these means somebody wants a 1 million share bet. 1 million shares times $77 million trade. Are you interested? Well, if you're not, you should be. They want to either protect a 1 million share investment or they want to bet that it goes lower, because again, as that 2.74% yield becomes less and less attractive, if interest rates are 3.5% on the 10-year, moving up perhaps to 4%, that's why this particular ETF would go down. That's why this bet has been made, and that's why I'm in at the money puts, and I will be shorting at the money puts or out of the money puts against it. 1-to-1, that's the way I trade. All right, there's some of the people who will be there at the RebelCon. Starting from the left, that's AJ Monty. Right next to him, Ryan Mastro, our chief options strategist. Right next to him, Mike Yamamoto, former business editor at the San Francisco Chronicle, brilliant trader and a great friend for over, I think we're coming up on 2 decades now. My brother Pete, myself, Bill Johnson, Monty, which is Matt Monty Meyer, and CJ Reichel. All of them will be speaking at RebelCon 2022. Check out marketrebellion.com/Dallas for more. All right, now let's take a look at KSS. I think this is interesting. Why is it interesting, John? Because Kohl's, which is KSS, take a look at that. I pulled up a 2-year chart. It was in November of 2020, down around $20 a share. It went screaming higher into March of 2021 and then bled off into the 40s. This year, it made another run towards 60. And why was that? Potential takeover. They were talking to people and they were looking for a buyer, perhaps. And this was widely reported. Now the stock is trading at $29.69 and somebody steps in and buys some November 32 calls. Look at that chart. That's pretty cheap. Could somebody be betting and starting to put their toe in the water that this one goes significantly higher and maybe there's a buyer at 50? Maybe it's not 60. Maybe it's 50. That'd still be a huge windfall for somebody that owns the 30 calls, which I own, on up to these 3250s, which I do not own. Again, I buy at the money. I sell out of the money. I have time, so I haven't sold upside yet. These are 1-to-1. I buy them and then I wait. And if it runs up, I sell a higher strike against it in the case of calls. And if it doesn't run up and I start bleeding away, time decay and so forth, directional bias, well, then I close the trade. That happens about 1 out of 5 trades that I have to close at a loss or at break even. But I never ride it all the way down. I sit there and say, if it draws down 50%, cut my losses. If it runs to the upside, now I take profits at 100%. When was the last time you took a profit at 100%? That's what I do. That's what people that follow us do. Because you buy a $1 option, it goes $2. That's 100% profit. I take off half, let the rest run. That's the way we play. Bang. There's my brother, Pete. There I am. Pete was in Chicago filming yesterday for some of our Rebel Edge and streaming programs. He and I will be back Monday next week. As I've said, I will be from the New York Stock Exchange for the Rebel Edge, and Pete will be in an undisclosed location. I hope you have a great weekend, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow for the unusual activity and back on Halftime Report tomorrow, noon Eastern time. So you want to see us, all you who have been pinging me endlessly as I'm enjoying my summer and saying, where's John? Where's Pete? Boy, I don't like halftime without those guys. Halftime's still a great show, with or without us. But we appreciate all of you saying that. And I'm looking forward to being back on the show tomorrow. I think it's Brenda Vingello, Shannon Scotia, myself, and Jim Labenthal, who will be on the show with Scott Wapner tomorrow. Encourage you guys to join us then. Have a great night.